Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of a review of what we did last time, and this hopefully will answer the questions that you girls are having. So what is the most important thing that you have to do when I give you a name, or sorry, when I give you a compound and you have to give me a name? What's the very first thing you have to do, Mason?
Determine what type of thing it is. Like this would be a non-metal to polyatomic.
Excellent. You are half right and half wrong. Those are the best ways to answer questions in this class. Okay, so Mason's right. You have to decide what your first element is. So we're going through the periodic through our flow chart. Help yourself. You're going through the flow chart, and you have to decide if you have a metal or a non-metal. How do you decide if something's a metal or a non-metal? Simply finding it on the periodic table. Here is the staircase. Everything to the left is a
Metal.
Everything to the right is not a metal. Okay, so is calcium a metal or a non-metal? It's a metal. Okay, so then we're going on the metal side of our flowchart, and it says where is that metal located? So if it's in group 1 or 2, we know how to name it. And if it's anywhere else, we are going to learn that today. Where is this element?
1 or 2.
It is 1 or 2. So then I'm just going to follow the rule. Oh, and then it's calcium. And then I have to decide what kind of thing I have after that metal. So here I have 3 different elements. That means I need to use rule set number 3. So my rule set number 3 says to name the metal, that's the first name, and then to find the other thing on the pink sheet. So what's BrO4? Perbromate. So the easiest thing to do is to not use this. But trust me, you need to use this. That's why I made it for you. I don't need to use this, but I've been naming these compounds for 25 years. So if I'm not good at it, there's probably something wrong up here. Okay, so now let's talk about what happens when you're not in group 1 or 2A. I'm going to give us the same compound, basically. I'm just going to change the identity of that first metal. So Cd is the element. Cadmium. Find cadmium on your periodic table. It's number 48. Is that in group 1 or 2A? No. So that means that I'm going to have to look on the left side of, or sorry, my left, you're right, side of the flowchart. And here it says it's a transition. Now it wants to know how many total elements are in the compound. How many total elements are in this compound? 3. You're right. So you're going to use rule set number 5. So let's do what that set tells us to do. So step A says to name the metal. Well, you already did, and you said that it was cadmium, and that's correct. So far, nothing's different. It's part B that is really going to get us in trouble. Part B asks us to find the charge of that metal. The funny thing about the transition metals is that they can have a lot of different charges. So look at your periodic table for me real quickly. Do you remember when I had you write the stuff above the columns? Yeah. And you left a space, but then you filled it in and it has like the plus or the minuses? We did not write any pluses or minuses above the transition metal columns because they do a bunch of different things. Some of those different things are even listed on the back side of your periodic table where it says electronegativities and oxidation states. So find molybdenum for me. It's element MO. It is Mo. Molybdenum is wacky. He can do +2, +3, +4, +5, +6. But those aren't even all of the different oxidation states. It's only the ones that are the most common. So there are even oxidation states that are not listed on this side of the periodic table. They do so many goofy things. And it's actually a wonder that they can do these goofy things because it is what gives us such a variety of compounds. It's a good thing, but we have to be able to differentiate between if we had cadmium 2+ and cadmium 3+, because those compounds are not the same. So they cannot also have the same name. Just as if I were to think that, oh, Cole and Caden, they look alike. They have kind of the same hair color. They both play football. They're both sophomores. They're maybe the same height. They must be interchangeable. So I'm just going to call both of them Caden. Well, but they're not interchangeable because they're not actually the same person. They might look similar. They might even act similar, but that doesn't mean that they are the same. So we have to be able to show that in the name. All right, so here's how you will find out what the charge of the metal is. We need to look at what this compound actually means. What my formula is saying is that I have one cadmium atom for every compound, and then I have 2 of this BrO4 thing. That's what the 2 here outside of this parentheses means. All right, so somebody look for me on the pink sheet and tell me what is the charge of BrO4. It's called perbromate. It is 1. Yes, 1-. Remember, we don't write the 1. Okay, so then what's the total charge of all of the negative bits of this compound? 2-, because 1 + 1 is 2, right? All right, so here's something really important to remember. All atoms of a compound must add up I'm just going to write like the charges of the atoms because otherwise it doesn't make sense in my mind. In order for a compound to be a compound, all of the ions have to have added up to 0. Stay out of there. You know, it wouldn't bother me except I can hear it. Okay, so if all of these charges have to add up to 0, let's talk about this. So whatever we have here for the negative, we're going to have balanced out for our metals. Yes, ma'am?
How do you know it's negative now?
I looked on the pink sheet. And it told me. That's what the little thing means, yep. Okay, so if whatever this is plus 2- has to equal 0, what does this number have to be?
2+.
2+. That's how you identify the charge. Step C then of the naming rules says to indicate that charge using the Roman numeral. So I don't expect you to know Roman numerals, although you might, but they're down here in this little chart. So if you don't know them, just look it up. So if we're saying that the charge of cadmium is 2, this is what we should write. Cadmium parentheses Roman numeral 2. So the parentheses and these 2 random capital letters are actually like, this is one word. So there's no really space in between. And that's what's tricky about these compounds. It's these 2 steps that are different than they were before. So how do we name the last name of the compound? Excuse me, well, just the way that we did before, we're just going to use the name from the pink sheet, which I told you was perbromate. So this compound's name is cadmium 2 perbromate. Just kidding.
I'm going to just ask you, you're going to get a pink sheet.
You will use your own pink sheet.
Okay.
You will use your own.
Yeah,
You
that's
may
what I mean.
any colored sheet you can use your own of. So if you want to write on it, I don't care. If you want to leave little love notes for yourself, examples, you know, you can do this. Draw a thumbs up, whatever you want, I don't care. I'm not going to collect them. Whatever you want to do to help yourself for the test is fine with me. All right, let's do some examples of this because really identifying the charge of the metal is what's complicated. All right, so and then let's do okay, the first one I put on here was actually pretty tricky. Okay, so if you feel like you know what you're doing, go ahead and work without me, and then come back and see if you get the right answers. NB is the element. Oops. Now we need to figure out its charge. So what does that compound formula mean? It means I've got 3 niobiums and 1 nitrogen. We need to find out what the charge of nitrogen is. So because he's an element by himself, we will find him on the periodic table. So find nitrogen, and then look above that column that nitrogen is in, and you'll see the charge I told you to put down. It is 3 minus. All right, so this is tricky. There are 3 total negatives for the anion. But now, whatever niobium is, there are 3 of it that have to separate all of this charge. So the charge of one of these should be, no, 1 plus, yes. There are 3 of these. So if these were all 3 plus, what would be your total charge? Is that going to balance the -3? No. So that's, always use that as a way to check. So we know that that can't be true. It must be Nb plus. So how do we indicate that? We'll just write a Roman numeral 1 after niobium. And then how should we name N? Nitride. You were right. Oops.
Wait, Mrs. Bishop, can you do 1 minute? There was someone on the thing that were like non-metals, but they have like 4 different.
Oh, yes. Yep. I put that down here so I can remind myself to do it. So I already told Madison that I would, but I got to make sure that I don't forget to do that. All right, let's try the next one. MO is molybdenum. He's got kind of a goofy spelling with that B and the D next to each other. So now let's try to figure out his charge. We have 1 mo and 6 chlorines. What's the charge of chlorine? Just negative. So that really means -1, right? So what's the total of all of these Johns here?
-6.
So then what does the charge of 1 MO have to be? Plus 6. Because whatever this number is, molybdenum has to be able to be the opposite. So that, and the same numbers, so that it can balance all that charge over. So 6 looks like this. It's a V and then an I.
Ms. Bishop,
Yeah.
how do we know chlorine's negative?
Oh, by looking at the periodic table, Cody, thank you for asking that. Find chlorine, and then just look at the number above it in the column. Like you should have written that down.
I lost my next one.
Oh. Here, let me get you caught up then.
No, I'll copy off Joe's.
Okay. All right, then the last one here should be, what is Cu? Copper. What's its charge?
3.
Nope. I'm glad you said that, Cody. Cannon, sorry. Thank you so much. So there are 3 of them. But that Roman numeral doesn't tell you how many there are. It tells you what its charge is. So we're going to have to do a little bit of investigating about that PO4. So where are we going to find the charge of PO4? Where should we look for it?
Pink sheet.
Pink sheet. Okay, so find PO4 on the pink sheet. And tell me what you find for its charge. 3 minus. Okay, so what is the charge of all of this?
6 minus.
There are 3 of these. That means they have to equally spread out that 6 charge. So
2.
that's it. So copper 2, and then what is PO4 called?
Phosphate.
And so here, I actually taught you how to do both number 4 and number 5. I just did them in one fell swoop. Okay, but now, let me talk about this. So normally when I'm telling you to look at a compound, you should always look at its first element and decide if it's metal or non-metal. And here we would have nitrogen. It's obviously a non-metal. The problem is that nitrogen forms the one polyatomic ion that is positively charged. So I have a new kind of rule for you. If your compound starts with the letter N, you have to look further on before you can start making decisions. You have to decide if you see NH4 as the beginning of your compound. If you do, this whole thing is called ammonium.
Says NH.
Yeah, that's ammonia. Ammonium is something a little bit different, Cole. Ammonia is what you don't mix with bleach. I guess I don't have any.
Oh, that stuff.
It has a funky smell. Your football pads smell like it when you're done practicing. Yes, yep. Ammonia is produced when you sweat. Yes, Mason.
You make cheese.
What?
You would make your smells that are very same
No, I'm not.
Yeah, they were doing funny. So it makes it together, the entire baby for some gas.
Yeah, it's
Among other things, but
not a great look.
Really want to take a bleach.
no, my dad's boss was in a truck that was going
So then, what would be the end part of this compound? How would we finish naming this?
Chloride.
Okay, so then Madison just asked about this one. What about NH4NO3? What would this compound's name be? And then you have to find the other thing. Yep, nitrate. Yes, sir. You may potty. All right. Oh, you want me to go back? I believe this question is on the front side of your homework.
It's number 9.
Number 9. So there's an answer for you. All right. I have. How are we feeling? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs medium?
Thumbs very high.
Thumbs very high. Okay. So it is a little bit after 1 o'clock. We have almost 45 minutes. I have one more thing that I want you to do, and then I'm going to give you the entire rest of the block for you to work on this homework and the lab that I'm going to give you. But the lab shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes because it's small. We are not making slime this time, but the next lab we do will make slime. The next coming up lab, you'll be burning stuff with the Bunsen burners. So it's not bad, but it is a pan slab. Okay, so what I want you to do, I'm going to mix up a whole bunch of examples on this screen. If you can do them, you are free to go on doing your homework and the lab. So let's get started here. All right, give this a try. Remember, really concentrate on looking at where that first element is. Do you need a mint?
No, it's just a paper towel.
Oh, what? What do we got?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be on the YouTube this fish up.
You're on the YouTube. You know what? This month I got my YouTube creator for the month email. I got one more subscriber. You guys, I'm at 31 subscribers.
Oh my god.
What's your account? I'll sub right now.
No, do not. It's just so that I can post these things so people can watch them.
What's the
Haha, real funny, Cody. Put my chair all the way down so I can sit and fall backwards.
All right, lock in there, Joseph.
What's the name?
Michelle
Wait, no.
Bishop. I mean, I'm sure if you searched me, I would come up.
Where are we supposed to do these?
On your notes, in your notes.
Is it Miss Bishop Science class?
No, it's not. It's just because it's all my random stuff. Like sometimes, like a couple weeks ago, a bride asked me, like, "Well, will you send recordings of what your musicals sound like?" And I was like, "No, but sure." And then I made just really shitty recordings because I don't also want like high quality recordings out there because I don't want them to just think that they can use my recorded material without paying me for it. Darn it. So that's not okay. But sometimes I do put things up like samples of my work in case I'm, when I charge for weddings, it's pretty many dollars. So I try to make sure that they know they're getting a high quality product.
Can it be sued if they steal it?
I mean, if I had it copyrighted, but it's hard to prove that, and lawyers are expensive. The amount of money I could get out of it is probably in the negative dollars.
Well, you should become a lawyer.
Unless I was a lawyer myself.
Well, you should become a lawyer.
Okay, I don't like this shareable space. Okay, so my friends,
Miss Bishop,
Yeah.
could you name them first?
oh, sure, yep. I will wait. Yes, Madison, do you want me to come over there?
Yeah. I feel like I know what I'm doing. I already did the entire. And then, so for this one, it was that's so good. So, because you don't have to move the car, you don't have to it's on metal. Yep, that's it. And then one more question. If it's like
How do you use it?
Yeah.
Like in the naming or in real life?
In the naming.
Okay, so for this one then, Joe, all you do, because here you have the ammonium,
Yeah.
all you would do is just write ammonium, that's your first name,
Yeah.
and then name this as the second name. So you would just find SO4 on your pink sheet, unless you happen to have it memorized and you would know it was ammonium sulfate.
so it should say CU2, the T doesn't matter. No, it does because it'll help you to figure out which one. Because copper is you have two of them.
So you have two of them, yeah.
So you have to double them. Like,
So what's the charge of self? Yeah. So it would be positive. No, because there's only one sulfate and there's two. So
you divide them.
So what?
yes.
And you have sulfur less sulfide.
Yes. Hang on a second, because it's only one. You're just okay.
That is slow.
W is constant.
Yeah, but
So many of these are probably more.
So how many capital letters are there? Yes. And you're going to follow four. So now in the middle, so A uses all. Yeah. So
And two of
and then it asks us to figure out the charge of this compound so that a base in the formula. So you don't look on the left, look right here.
I found it all from the career.
You already did that. Yep, so then you're gonna put that in the, but not there. You wanna do the parentheses.
Yeah, it was like really cheap. Yeah,
Not quite yet. I'll show you. Hang on a sec, Jason. I gotta finish the thought, otherwise I'll lose my mind. The Roman numeral in the parentheses. And then just keep following the directions, Gabe, because it'll tell you to name the non-metal and make sure you use the IDE ending. So that first compound's name is gold 3 chloride.
CR is it?
Only write the extra. Ammonium's not a transition metal. You just write the name. So like for this one here, oh, is this the example that, oh, it's the same as chromate.
Okay.
It almost looks exactly the same. It's just ammonium sulfate, that's it. Yes, Cannon. Not quite. I'll show you that one.
Is the first one?
The first one is. Okay, so for the second compound on the board, Fi3, F is here on your periodic table. That means it is a,
-1.
but it's a non-metal. So that means I'm going to use rules number 1. So rules number 1 say, write the elements as they occur. So fluorine, and then iodide, and then it says, add the appropriate prefixes. We don't write the mono on the first one, but we do write the tri on the second one. So this one is called fluorine triiodide. Yep, 2 I's next to each other. Isn't that fun and fancy? And then this next one, Ru, is ruthenium. And ruthenium is, Hg is one of the blue ones. Ruthenium is right here. So that means it's not 1A or 2A. It's a transition. Is it more than 2 elements? It is. So I'm going to follow my rules number 5. I'm going to find out the charge of ruthenium. I've got 4 NO3s.
Isn't there 3? There's 7 NO3s.
No. What this means, I'm so glad you asked that. What this means is that there are 4 of this thing. So this is truly what your compound looks like. So my total charge for all of those nitrates is 4 minus So then my ruthenium has a charge of 4. And then it is nitrate. Yes, Mason?
For number 54, ammonium and chlorine. How would you write that? Would it be ammonium chloride? Okay.
This is ammonium fluoride. That's what Mason was just asking.
Wait, if it's like ammonium, and then like how you have it up there with the 2, does the 2 do anything? No, okay, that's what
No. You just name ammonium like you would any other plain thing. No prefixes, no Roman numerals, nothing. Anybody get a name for this, friend? Demetrius? That's correct. Tungsten 6. There are 6 of the cyanide ion, and those are all 1 minus. So if there's only 1 tungsten, he has to take the whole 6 charge, and then Cn is called cyanide. And the last one? Mason?
Calcium bicarbonate.
Correct. Now, it's really important that you do not write the Roman numerals if that element occurs in group 2A or 1A, because it's not necessary. So we do not include it unless it is a transition metal. All right, I'm going to stop the video. If you guys have questions, let me know.